You're listening to the Gutsy Podcast, where we talk about all things real, raw, and ridiculous about running a business authentically. Whether you need an inspirational pick-me-up or a swift kick in the mental ass, the Gutsy Podcast is your bi-weekly guide to getting out of your head and back into action. I'm Laura Ora, branding and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs, CEO of Works & Co., and your host on this journey through entrepreneurship. It's time to fuel your gutsy. I'm going to guess that you started a business for one of three, if not all of these reasons. One, to have more flexibility and freedom in your life. Two, to do something that you love every single day. And three, to have more control over your finances. I'm also guessing that you're listening in today because you're ready to take that third one to another level. Today, we're talking about not only creating profit, but maintaining a profitable business. And I have Simone Craig here to share her knowledge with you. Simone is a law of attraction and manifestation expert. She combined her accounting skill and unique insights into the law of attraction to create a thriving accounting and wealth consulting business. Simone Craig is a wealth expert on a mission to close the wealth gap one woman at a time. Known as the Angel CFO, Simone advises female business owners in making savvy and wise financial decisions for maximized business profitability, increased personal wealth, and joyful living. I can't wait to talk manifestation and money. Simone, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm really excited to be here and to have this conversation.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. So, Angel CFO, how did you get that? How did you get that title? Because that sounds pretty magical.
Right? Yes. So I have always been very attracted to and guided by what I call angels or angelic energy. I'm that woman who, if she sees repeating numbers, I'm looking it up. What's the angel? What's the angel number? What's the meaning of that? Even as a girl, my mom bought me a book called The Angel Book, and I loved reading it. There was a certain feeling that it gave me. There was a certain sense of support that I felt. It felt we all have different relationships with what abundance means and feels like to us specifically. But to me, angel energy is almost the same as abundance energy. And so that's really how I like to show up for the women in my life, is as that supportive, compassionate, abundance energy, inspiring you to keep going and to achieve your goals. So that's how I like to show up with my clients.
I love it. Look, I am nodding my head and raising my hand as you're talking because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm that girl too. When I see the repeating numbers, I literally have a tab open on my phone in Safari.
Yep.
That goes directly to this angel number website that I love. It literally breaks down every single number. And I'm like, oh, why am I seeing I'm a big ones fan. So I see lots of like 111s, 1111s, but also like 333 and 777, all that. But it breaks down the craziest numbers. If you're seeing like 1437, it breaks that number down. So I feel you on that.
I think we go to the same website. So yes.
Okay.
It is amazing.
We will link that website in the show notes of this episode. So if you're like, okay, now I'm intrigued, we got you. So tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. What got you started and what led you to where you are today?
Yes. So how I became an entrepreneur was I had just gotten back from being in California. I'm from the East Coast, from New Jersey, and I went out to California for about 5 years to do something completely different than what I had been doing, which was working for corporate America as an accountant and a financial analyst. And I was pretty miserable in that situation. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to become an actress. and a singer songwriter. And that's what I did. But I got to a certain point where I was like, I really don't want to, nothing against it, but I really don't want to get to the point where I'm like a certain age and I'm still waiting tables trying to like go for my dreams. And so I was like, okay, if I don't see myself making this happen by a certain time, then I'm going to start looking at, going back home and starting again. And that's essentially what happened. Not that there weren't things that I loved about being an artist and the creative pursuits that I did there, but I really wanted to be more financially stable. And so I ended up having to kind of go back with my tail between my legs, in so many words, move back in with my family and start again. And so in that, I went back and I got a corporate job again, and I was back in a cubicle again. I was making good money, but I was doing the job of three people. And I can remember when, and at this time when I was doing this job, I was still kind of playing with the idea of starting my own business, but I didn't, I hadn't actually gone for it. And I can remember very specifically going to my bosses at the time and saying, listen, I'm doing all of this work. I really need help. Like I can do this, but it's a lot and I need help. And I did a whole presentation and I broke down why. And the next day they said, you know what, we appreciated your presentation, but we think you're doing fine. You don't need any help. And it was that night that I wrote my resignation letter. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. If I'm going to work the job of three people, then I might as well work that hard for myself.
Yes.
And, of course, also to be very straightforward about it, I did have the luxury of that I was living at home, right? And so I didn't have a lot of the kind of day-to-day living expenses or, a mortgage that I had to pay. I didn't have children. Okay. So yeah, there were certain things that I financially that I wasn't responsible for. So I was able to make that leap. But I did make the leap. And it wasn't an easy decision to make. My family certainly wasn't happy about it, but but I knew I had to do it. And I promised myself that I would be out of my parents' house in a year. And that was it. And I was going to do it from building my business. And that's really when I really had to, I really started to employ the law of attraction strategies. I know we'll get into this, but that's really what sparked me to really go from kind of believing is true, but kind of playing around with it, not taking it seriously, not actually seriously implementing it in my life. But as soon as I had that goal of I'm going to be out of my parents' house in a year, how am I going to do this? Then that's when I really started to take what I was learning about the law of attraction seriously and started to implement it to see if there was something to it or not.
Wow. And so bring us full circle.
Yeah.
Has that year come to fruition? Where are we in that timeline?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. So that was in 2007. So
it's been a hot minute then.
It's been a while.
I guess my question though is, did you achieve that 1 year goal, or did it take longer?
Sorry.
Or
yes.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. No. Yes, I did actually. I did it in just under a year. So I quit my job in May of that year. And in December of that year, literally December, I was packing up my stuff and moving into my own place. So Amazing. I had moved back into my parents' house in December of 2006. I got the corporate job in January 2007, quit in May 2007, and moved out of my parents' house in December 2007.
Amazing. It never ceases to amaze me how when you get very specific,
yes,
and you get very focused, and like that's the that's the motto that you're eating, sleeping, and breathing by every single day, how how quickly things can change for the
Absolutely.
great. Like you can, I don't know, I'm just in this belief now that like nothing's off the table.
Yes.
I truly believe that anything can be achieved.
Yes.
If it's right for you, it will be there.
Mm.
It's really just up to us if we want to get out of our own human way and allow it to come.
Absolutely. That's the truth.
One of your quotes on your Instagram recently caught my eye, and it said,
Mm.
"We don't manifest what we want, we
Mm.
manifest the vibration of our thoughts."
Yes.
Tell me, talk to me about this.
Oh boy. Well, yes. So for me, this was, I really had to learn that. I started my business. Okay. So I was doing that. I started a bookkeeping and accounting business. All right. Um, and so I truly believed that I could do it. I truly believed that there was nobody else on the planet who was a better bookkeeper and could provide a better bookkeeping service than me. Truly believed it. And so, as a result of believing that, as a result of those thoughts, I created that for myself, right? Um, but still, there was this feeling of, yes, I believe this, but I really want to be doing something else. Okay. I really, I don't know how passionate I am um, about, about this bookkeeping business. Right. So even though with my thoughts, created this bookkeeping business, vibrationally, what I was creating was I had a business, but I wasn't happy in the business. I had a business, but there was drama sometimes with people on my team. And what I had to realize was is that I was creating how I was actually feeling about the business. Right.
Hmm.
So I was creating how I was actually um, so along with what I believe that okay, I can have this business, alongside with that though, there was this feeling of unworthiness. There was a feeling of, well, I can never really truly have what I really want. There was a feeling of the only way that I can make money is if I do something that I'm not necessarily happy doing. So even though I went from corporate, right, and I left corporate because I wasn't happy doing that, and I started a business but I wasn't really happy with doing with that. I created that because I had a deeper belief that I can't actually, in order to make money, it can't be something that I really actually enjoy doing. So I had thoughts around success, but the larger thing that I was creating for myself, that I was feeling, that I was vibrating was I'm not truly worthy of being really successful in what my idea of successful is, and I'm not truly worthy of being happy.
Hmm.
So there is the piece of believing, you have thoughts and you believe it and you may see them come to pass. But ultimately, the bigger thing that you're creating for yourself is what you are vibrating, what you feel about yourself, what you feel about money, and what you feel about business. So I created the business, but overall, I created an unhappy person, an unhappy me in the business.
Gosh, I feel that. I feel
Yeah.
that. And I know so
Yeah.
many of our amazing listeners are sitting there going, "Well, shit. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep, I feel that." Because it's, I don't think that we talk about it enough that it's okay for your desires
Yes.
to shift. It's okay that something that you started no longer lights you up and something else is calling you. Like it's not a one, set it and forget it type of deal. We're not a infomercial from the 90s. It's
Yes.
you are an ever evolving human being. So I love that you listen to that calling,
Yeah.
and also recognize that like, you were unintentionally kind of creating the chaos based off of your perception and feelings towards the business. So my
Yes.
question then is how did you start to shift that? I think that's the next
Yeah.
biggest question is like, okay, I recognize that I'm feeling this. I can see clearly how I'm kind of creating a mess in front of me. How do I
Yeah.
start to shift those inner beliefs?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was gradually, there was a gradual shift for me. So there was a time when Periscope was out, it was pretty popular.
Yep, I remember that.
Remember Periscope
I
days?
do.
And all of a sudden I felt totally inspired to get on Periscope and talk about what I knew about building a business, what I knew about money, what I knew about law of attraction. It felt totally aligned. It felt really good, loved it. And from that inspiration, just being inspired to get on and talk, I went from, talking to no one, talking to one or two people in the room, to talking to hundreds of people in the room, right? And it ended up, I it ended up sparking me starting a new business, which was more aligned to what I was really excited about, which is mindset, money mindset, abundance, inspiring other business owners of how to shift their mindset to see incredible results in their business, in their life, in their finances. And so for me, I guess the straightforward answer was I followed um, what Abraham Hicks calls um, following your inspiration, right? Or what they call following your bliss. Your bliss. I really, I was so tired of being unhappy with what I was doing. I had to find an outlet for what I really wanted to do, and I started to do it. Taking inspired action is what Abraham Hicks calls it. Excuse me. So I took total inspired action, and took action on what I actually was passionate about doing, and that was the first step for me to feel more comfortable, and not only that, but feel more belief that, hey, wow, I actually can maybe build a business, build a community, and start building my finances from something that I love and enjoy, right? So that was the first step. And then it turned into, once I was able to build up more kind of internal trust within myself, um, there was a moment that happened where then I had two businesses, right? I had this very traditional bookkeeping and accounting business, and then I had this other business that was more mindset. And I always felt like they were separate. And then I had a moment, I had a download, I guess you could say, where it was like, okay, you're here to help close the wealth gap for women. And it was like, wow, that's awesome. Oh, cool. Well, how am I going to do that?
You're like, okay, we
Yeah.
couldn't have just started with something small. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just go the whole way in.
Right. Like, whoa, okay. And but in that realization, I started to see how my two businesses actually don't have to work separately. They actually can serve the same purpose of helping and supporting women, and improving their finances and reaching their personal wealth goals. A bookkeeping business do that, and an abundance mindset set business can do that. And so once I was able to see how even this business that I'm not necessarily passionate about, actually lined up with this ultimate passion of seeing empowered sovereign women, where their finances support them in that sovereignty, right? um, it was like, oh, okay. Wow, I was able to see my business differently. Wow, I became more passionate about the bookkeeping business and what we offer and how we serve people, and how we can offer best services. It became a totally different relationship and thought that I had for the bookkeeping business now that it was aligned with a greater purpose in my mind, in my spirit.
Wow. You know, it really boils down to trusting yourself,
Yes.
allowing yourself to hear yourself, to pay
Yes.
attention to what is pulling at you and what's tugging at you. And
Yes.
So often, especially as female entrepreneurs, we go outside of ourselves for validation. Like, oh, what do you think of
Hmm.
this? And what do you think of
Hmm.
that? And can you tell me that this is okay? And it's like,
Oh my gosh.
sometimes you just got to be silent and
Yes.
make your move without anyone's
Yes.
input. And I know that's scary, but man, there's so much power in that.
There's so much. I'm so glad you brought that up because I literally, speaking of posts, I literally posted something about that the other day of like, you know what, guys, 15 years later, 15 years in business, and investing, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching, training programs, etc. I'm now at a point where my sense of what's best for my business and what's next is what's primary. Not a business coach, not a expert, me.
Yep,
And it's been a 15-year journey, you know, but it really does boil down to that, trusting yourself.
it sure does.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the law of attraction a couple of times. Can you
Yeah.
go over what that is, what it means, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. So the essential idea of law of attraction is that which is likened to itself is drawn. So, in so many words, if there is a certain energy that someone is bringing to something, then the result of the energy that is given to, brought to, invested in something will be received in kind in return. And usually the way that the universe works is you receive that energy multiplied back to you. Now that can be good news if that is energy that is uplifting, supportive, positive, something that you want. And it can be not so great news if the energy you're investing in something is negative, depleting, hurtful, depressing, etc. You get it back multiplied. And on both sides, the reason why the tendency with law of attraction is to say, well, you know, that it's not necessarily that it's law of attraction. It's like, well, that's just the way it is. What do I mean by that? Okay, so if like same with the business, if I say, okay, I know, I believe, I truly believe I can build this bookkeeping business, no problem. So because I believe that, because that's the energy that I'm bringing to my life, my business, I'm going to see that reflected back to me multiplied. I'm going to see it reflected back to me in my personal life, my business life, my conversations. I'm going to see it on the TV, on a podcast, overhearing a conversation. It's going to be reflected back to me in every area of my life. And so the tendency is to say, well, but that's just the way it is. That I'm hearing it over there. I'm hearing the evidence over there. That's proof right there. That's the evidence. But it's overlooking that the reason you're able to point to the evidence is because it is a reflection of your own belief. It is a reflection of your own feeling about something, right? So, and the same thing with the negative. It's like, well, oh, law of attraction doesn't work. Okay. No such thing as law of attraction. Law of attraction is BS. And what you'll get, you will be able to point to evidence. You'll hear something, you hear a conversation, you hear some scientist from MIT or, somebody who's really convincing saying, oh no, that law of attraction, that doesn't work. Doesn't mean it is reflecting back to you what you believe, right? So the tendency is to say, well, is to look at external factors to get your proof about something. But ultimately, the proof is a result of your internal belief first. And that's really what law of attraction speaks to, is that everything you're seeing externally is simply a reflection of your own internal belief and feeling about yourself, about life, about anything.
Hmm. The example that kind of comes to mind is, when you think about buying a car, let's say you're going
Yeah.
to buy a blue Honda, I don't know, for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about this blue Honda and you want to buy it and
Mm.
you're working towards it. And then all of a sudden you start seeing blue Hondas everywhere. And then you buy it and you're driving it down the road and you're like, where the hell did all these blue Hondas come from? Like, they, they're not any more than they were before. You were just very focused and energetically in line with with the blue Honda. And therefore now you are seeing what was always
Mm.
around you, but now you're
Yes.
seeing it very clearly.
Yes, I love that example. That's it.
So it's not like everyone went out overnight and was like, you know what? We're going to compete with her. We're buying blue Hondas.
Hondas. Yes.
But it's not that serious. I promise you. You're just hyper aware of it because that's what you've been working towards.
That's right.
Do you love taking those quizzes? You know which ones I'm talking about. The ones that tell you which Disney princess you are and what your name reveals about you. What if I told you that I could pinpoint exactly where you are unintentionally giving away your power in your business? This is what I like to call a power leak. Think of it like having the heat blaring in the middle of winter, but the back window has a crack in it and all of the cold air is coming in. Guess where all your energy is going? Out the back window. The same goes for your power leak. These spaces, your mind, time, voice, presence, or money, are your biggest opportunity for growth. If you're ready to learn where you are unintentionally giving away your power, go to lauraora.com and take the free Power Leak quiz. 11 questions, less than 5 minutes, and a whole lot of self-discovery and opportunities await. So we're talking lots about creating and maintaining a profitable business. So I thought we would start with, look, all the rage online right now is to talk about, making 6 and 7 figures. And I'm not knocking it. I think it's fantastic that women are making buku dollars.
Yep.
What we don't always see though is the bottom line and the profitability. So can you explain to our listeners, like, what does a profitable business mean?
Yes, I'm so happy you asked this question.
Yay.
Yes, because agreed, there's a lot of, and nothing against marketing, love it. Love marketing, love it. There's a lot of marketing that's done that talks about profitable, be more profitable, make more profits. But then when I dive deeper into what they're actually talking about, they're not talking about you being profitable. They're talking about helping you to increase sales, right? They're talking about helping you to make more money. And that, of course, is vital for a business and vital when it comes to profitability. But to know really what it means to be profitable, making more money and making more sales is just one half of the equation. So profit, really, net profit, what does that mean? It means your sales minus your expenses. So whatever monies you have left over after you have subtracted expenses from your income, that is profit. That is your profitability, right? So there's a big difference between be more profitable, do this, put the sales funnel in place so that you can be more profitable. There's a big difference between talking about that and making more sales. And what did the funnel and the program you invested in to be more profitable cost you, right? Because once you know that, then you really know how profitable you are. I think the other thing about the importance of looking at profitability is that so much of the financial health of your business really hinges on, are you truly profitable? Not so much how much in sales that you're doing. And again, it's not to downplay sales, because of course you have to have sales to be in business. But once you are in business and you have sales, right, and you want to, as they say, scale or increase those sales, or you want to begin to put a team in place so that you can have more time to drive sales in the business, and you can delegate out other things to free up more of your time, profitability is even more important. Okay. So bottom line, your question before I go too far off, is that profitability very simply means your income less your expenses.
Got it. So I guess my follow-up question to that is, how do people know what a good profit is?
Aha.
Like, how do we gauge that? How do we know, like, hey, this was indeed
Yes.
profitable? Because if we made
Yes.
$50 off of it, technically it's profitable, but is that like good profit? Or let's break that down.
Yeah. Great question. So, first of all, um, you really want to look at first what industry you're in. I'll start there because a good profit margin for one industry may be not such a great profit for another. Okay. So, for instance, if you have I don't know, let's say you sell hair products. Okay. So you sell hair products. You're in the hair product industry. Okay. Where you will most likely have much more of costs of goods sold expenses to consider, which will affect how profitable you are. Okay. Product based businesses tend to be less profitable than, let's say, a service based business where maybe you're a coach. Okay. You're an online coach. You really don't have that much overhead. You don't have any inventory. You have maybe a few subscriptions that you have to pay per month. So it's reasonable to expect that a coach or a service-based entrepreneur online should have a higher profit margin than, let's say, a product-based business. Okay. So let's say you are a service-based coach, right? Ideally, to know you have a good profit margin, you want to be looking at a profit margin of anywhere of 60 to 70%. Meaning, let's say you've made $100,000 in sales in your business, right? Profit margin means a 60 to 70% profit margin means very straightforward. You take 60% times $100,000. So you should have a profit of $60,000. So you have $100,000 in sales. You have $40,000 of expenses. You take the 100 minus 40, you're left with 60,000. So you take the 60 divided by the 100, you have a 60% profit margin. So service-based businesses, ideally you want to be anywhere from 60 to 70% of a profit margin. Okay. Product-based businesses, again, usually product-based businesses are happy with a 30% profit margin, 30 to 40%. So it's really a matter of doing some industry research and seeing for your specific industry what makes sense in terms of running a profitable business, right?
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love that you called out, like, it's not a one size fits all shoe. It's not,
absolutely not.
there's not a blanket, running a retail store with lots of product has
Yeah,
very different expenses than an online coach that is running their business from their home office, right?
that
Like,
is
there's
right.
just very different models, and so they should be treated accordingly.
Absolutely. Yes.
So let me go a little further down the rabbit hole then.
Mm-hmm.
How can people evaluate if a product or service is profitable?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So I really like to approach these profitability questions from um, looking at what you're doing in sales, right? So I love the profit first ideal or profit first model. I don't know if or your viewers are familiar with profit first.
Yes, I have the
Yeah,
book.
I love it. So that's how I operate my business. That's how I recommend my clients do. But I really like to look at, regardless of what industry you're in, you should be basing your profit models based off of the percentages on how much you are making in income. Okay. Now, there is a caveat, of course, with you want to be aware of the key with profitability. I find is really cost of goods sold, no matter what industry you're in. Okay. So you want to be clear. So I'll take the $100,000 example. So if you're making $100,000 a year in the business, okay, um, you want to know what it's costing you to make that $100,000. So if it's costing your business by way of subcontractors or inventory, okay, if it's costing you, I don't know, $30,000 a year to make that $100,000, then really the way to look at it is you're not necessarily running a $100,000 business. You're running a $70,000 business. Mm. Okay. And that's why you hear about these companies, oh, $10 million companies. Okay. Yeah. 10 million in sales.
Yes.
But what are their expenses? They might be in the red. You might be running a more profitable business than a $5 million quote unquote business making $5 million sales.
Right.
Okay. So a $10 million business making $10 million in sales, if they have $11 million in expenses, they're not a $10 million company. If they have $5 million in expenses and they're making $10 million, they actually have a $5 million company. Okay. So in terms of profitability, you really want to start looking at your numbers as, okay, I'm actually running a business of a $70,000 company. I know I made $100,000, but it cost me 30 to make it. So I'm actually running a $70,000 business. Now, once you're clear on that number, which in Profit First they call real income, once you're clear on what your real income number is, which is the $70,000, then you start taking percentages, right? So the only thing that I do a little bit differently in my approach to the Profit First model is he doesn't necessarily talk about a portion of your income going towards some type of what do we say? Let's say a charity or even a tithe. Some people call it a tithe. I think it's important in terms of a law of attraction perspective, in terms of being in a good and right and emotional alignment with your business, that some portion of your business profits go towards something, some higher ideal, some greater purpose, someone more in need than you. I find that with my clients that do that, they are much more abundant and thriving when they take a portion of their real income and contribute it either towards what they call a quote unquote tithe or what they call a quote unquote charitable contribution. But besides that, I'm in alignment with everything else that he talks about. So you want to make sure that percentage wise, you have money going to Profit First of that $70,000. So you should be allocating money to Profit First. So as long as you are allocating money to Profit First, you can technically say you're running a profitable business. You also really want to make sure that you, as the business owner, are paying yourself.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Open the door. Let's walk right through it.
Let's go right through it because too many times, and I have this conversation with women way more than I ever have it with men, is that, we are much more willing to not pay ourselves than men are. And I think the most shocking thing I've come across is a wonderful, brilliant woman who was making in sales, okay, $700,000 a year in sales in her business and was not paying herself.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Was not paying herself and came up with all different reasons and whys and justifications for why she should not be paying herself. Okay. So that's not okay. That's madness. So
it's not okay at all.
It's not okay. And so you want to begin to get in the habit, because in the beginning, you may not be able to pay yourself from your view, let's say much, but it doesn't even matter what that number is in the beginning. What matters is the habit. What matters is you are taking the time to show yourself that you're worth it and that you deserve to be paid something for your efforts in your business. Now,
Yes.
okay, I mean that's just bottom line. And that's the other wonderful thing about closing the wealth gap. Really, ultimately, um, the reason I said yes and I was willing to take it on, even though not completely wasn't completely sure how I was going to do it, was so much of closing the wealth gap for women is dependent on women. It's dependent on women not allowing themselves to be shortchanged anymore, not allowing themselves to um, uh, um, not pay themselves, being willing to increase their prices, being willing to stand in their value and worthiness when it comes to an ask around money, especially if you own a business, because that's 100% up to you. And then the other thing that I hear is, well, yeah, I can raise my prices and yeah, I can charge all this money, but no one's going to pay me that. Or where am I going to find clients to pay me that? And that's where mindset and law of attraction comes in, right? That's where the belief comes in, is that you set the standard, you set the value, number one, for what your prices are going to be and what you're going to pay yourself. And if you do the internal work enough that you believe you can have it, that you know that you're worthy of it, and that if you continue to focus and do the work inside and out, you will have it. Period. It can't be any other way otherwise. That's how this place, this universe, this existence works. You focus on something, you believe it, you feel good about it, you have it. And
And
that's completely up to you.
yeah, that goes back to your quote earlier, right? Like what we
Yeah,
focus on is what gets amplified, essentially.
that's right.
And
So I, I
it's cool and almost a little intimidating sometimes to think like literally how much control you really do have,
yes,
especially when it comes to money. I know that money is,
yes,
it can be a fun and great and enlightening topic, or it can be the thing that you're staying up at night every
that's
single
right.
night about.
That's right.
And so I'm sensitive to, look, I'm super transparent. I was not paying myself for a very long time.
Yeah.
I was making sure that my employees were getting paid. I was
Yes.
making sure that the bills were getting paid. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would take a draw from time to time to get groceries or whatever we needed. But
Mm-hmm.
Laura was not getting a paycheck. And
Yeah.
Laura almost lost everything, literally everything, including her
Yeah.
house because
Yes.
of it. And I was like, okay, enough is enough. I have to claim this because nobody is showing up to pay me.
That's
Like
right.
nobody is going to do it for me. Nobody is showing up saying, "Hey, Laura, it's Friday, it's payday, it's time to give yourself money." Like when
Yes.
you're the business owner, it falls back on you. And if you
Yes.
don't claim it, there's nobody showing up on your window knocking, reminding you, "Hey, it's time to take your money."
That's right. That's it right there.
So, what are some foundational steps or things that you recommend having
Mm-hmm.
in place to create a profitable business?
Mm. Well, first of all, you have to have a budget. Okay. And I know it's not a very sexy word, but
Everyone's like, "Oh gosh, what else you got?"
like wah wah. So I've come, listen, I've tried to come up with, okay, don't want a budget. How about a wealth building outline? Okay. Does that
Mm,
sound better?
I like that.
So you got to have a wealth building outline. Okay. You have to have a wealth building outline because the bottom line is, like anything else, you have to have accountability. Okay. You have to have financial accountability, and you start with financial accountability by having a outline, a spreadsheet, okay, that you list out what your financial goals are line by line. This is how much I'm going to make. This is how much I want to make in the year. This is how much I want to make monthly to make that much in a year. Okay. This is what I'm going to sell, at what price point, at what volume I'm going to sell them each month, so that I can hit my monthly, quarterly, and yearly goals. And again, if we look at this from the law of attraction perspective, what you pay attention to expands. What you give your focus to expands. Okay. So simply the fact of you every day, and this isn't something you kind of do when you have time or every now and then, it's a daily practice, until you've mastered it. It's a daily practice where you look at the spreadsheet, you see how you're doing, you see what you're on track to do. Okay. It doesn't have to take a long time, but you just checking in with yourself, just like you kind of check email to kind of see what's going on. Yep. You check into your wealth building outline to see how things are going. It's called being in good and right relationship with your money, tending to your relationship with your money. Any relationship, you want any relationship to do well and thrive, you check in with it. You see how it's going. You're in communication. You course correct when things don't seem to be going the way you want them to go. It's like any other relationship. So you have to have a bottom line, a wealth building outline that outlines what you want to see happen. And then somewhere else on that spreadsheet, okay, on your wealth building outline, you have a column for what's actually happening. Okay, I wanted to sell 10,000 this month. I sold 8. Okay. All right, cool. What happened? Why? How can I sell more, or what can I adjust, right? So it can be as long as you have the structure in place for yourself in terms of this wealth building outline, then it can really be very straightforward of, okay, this was my goal. I didn't hit it. How am I going to course correct from here? You also get very clear on where your money's going. How much am I paying for this thing? Is it worth it? Oh, look, I've been paying for this monthly thing that I don't actually use. Okay, I can unsubscribe to it. I mean, the money leakages that happen out of one's business simply because they don't have it mapped out. They don't see it, and so they're not aware of it. They don't feel it. So that is my recommendation. Is the first thing you must have, bottom line, is a wealth building outline that maps out what you want on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis. And as you execute during the year, you're also tracking how you are doing compared to what you planned to do. That's absolutely number one. Then also on that spreadsheet, what I really like to do is that's where I map out my percentages. So I say, okay, based off of what my real income is, here are my sales, here are my costs of goods sold, here's my real income, and then I apply my percentages there. Okay, based off of my real income, this is how much profit I know that I should keep to the side or give myself a profit distribution. Okay, this is how much I know I am to be paying myself based off of my real income. This is how much I know I'm going to set aside for taxes. Okay, that's the other thing that we want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves with is taxes. There's no reason we should be scared of taxes, scared of our accountant, or scared of the IRS. No, no, no. And there tends to be so much shame as well that I sometimes, especially talking with women, where they owe money to the IRS or they're on a payment plan to the IRS. There's no shame around that. Too many people have a payment plan with the IRS. I was on one once. I don't care. I'll go on one again if I need to. I generally don't need to because I map my finances out where I'm ready tax time to pay what I need to pay. But if you are in a circumstance where you owe something to the IRS, actually they're very accommodating because they want you to pay.
They do.
They just want you to pay. They're not out to get you. They don't want to come after you. Like, they don't want to make your life hard. They just want you to pay your taxes. So if you owe something, the best thing you could do, again, it's about being in relationship. Be proactive. Oh, you're going to owe $6,000 in taxes? Well, give them a call before they get the tax return. Hey, I know this is what I'm going to owe. What do you suggest? Hey, I know this is what I'm going to owe. I'd like a payment plan. How about I set something up now? Be proactive and pay it each month. So it's like if you miss a payment, okay, they'll work with you. Or you pay off your payment plan in full. They see that you did that, you were proactive with it. You may at some point need one again. It makes it a lot easier for them to work with you and be accommodating for you if you just simply are in communication with them and you're not scared of them. No need to be scared of the IRS, and there's definitely no shame. But so you want to make sure that you're putting money aside for taxes. If you have a business, ideally, you do want to be paying estimated taxes. Now, not everybody does that. Some people decide to pay at the end of the year. I would recommend, though, that if you're one of those people who you don't want to pay the estimated taxes during the year, you want to wait to the end of the year, that you do use this method that I'm talking about, which is having the wealth building outline, knowing your real income, and setting money aside percentage wise based off of real income for taxes. And if you're not going to read Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First, then know that that percentage is 15%. Okay. No matter how much money you're making in your business, you should be allocating 15% of real income towards taxes. And then once you know that, how profitable am I? What's the profit I'm putting aside? How much am I paying myself? What am I putting aside for taxes? Then what is left in that percentage that keeps you honest? Then you know this is how much money I have to run this business. This is what I have. And if I go over that, then I know that, and if I consistently go over that and over spend there, then I know I'm on my way to some cash flow issues. Okay. The wealth building outline is really designed to keep you accountable and keep you honest and to stay in good and right relationship with money.
Amazing. So many of the things that you just said I want to touch on.
Sure.
First, the IRS shame is real.
Yeah.
I can remember distinctively one time I got a certified letter. And when you get a certified letter, they have to, like, the post office has to hand deliver it to you.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, I think I caught this UPS guy on a bad day. He marches in my office, which was an open floor plan at the time.
Okay.
All my employees are sitting there. And he's like, I have a certified letter from the IRS for Mrs. Laura Wallace.
No.
And I was like, and now I will go die. Thank you very much.
Right.
Such shame, because it's like, you're only getting those letters.
Yeah.
If you owe somebody some money. Right. And it was, I remember that shame. And I remember thinking, like, they're going to come knocking at my door and they're going to come take my cars. And they're, it's that they seem bigger and scarier than what they actually are. And
yes,
you pointed out so beautifully. They want to work with you, but you have to be willing to work with them. Like, if you go out of sight, out of mind, if you, like, go off the radar, if you dodge all their letters, that's only when it starts to get, like, kind of off the rails and a little scary.
That's right.
They literally are trying to work with you. That's why they're sending you the notifications.
Yes, that's right. That's all they want to do.
That's all. They just want to work with you.
Yep.
And so much of this too, talking with the IRS, talking about looking at your numbers.
Yep.
It's the fear of knowing what's going on.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to see how bad it is, or I don't want to know what it looks like. I don't want to think about taxes because it freaks me out. Like, if I just don't look at it, then it can't ever be, quote unquote, that bad.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Isn't it so true? And I've definitely been there where, the mail's coming in or the calls are coming in. It's like, okay, I'll just avoid. And isn't it funny that it's actually the exact opposite? Because I found that once I started to just look at what was opening up my mail, and looking at mapping out my finances on a spreadsheet, see what's going on, and actually see the state of my finances, it's always worse in my head.
Always.
Oh, right?
Every time.
Every time. It's worse. And when I do it, I'm like, oh my God, this isn't that bad. Oh, this okay. And then I take care of it. Or if it's way, farther down the line, it's like, oh, why didn't I just deal with this in the moment? But like you said, of that fear of, oh gosh, having to know how bad it is. But the cool thing is when you actually deal with it, it's never as bad as you think. And that's
Yes.
always why the first thing that I do with people is we look at everything, we open everything up, we get really clear, because just in doing that, they see, oh my gosh, it's not as bad as I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see in female entrepreneurs specifically, it's like that is one of the fastest ways that I see them giving away their power
Mm,
is by not looking at the numbers. And that,
yes.
just it boils down to things like, oh, I need to go to the grocery store and pick some things up, and I'm going to hold my breath to find out if that card's going to go through or not.
Oof, yeah.
Right? Like I've been
Yeah.
there. I've
Yeah.
been there and I was
Yeah.
not looking at my numbers. It
Yeah.
it puts you in power. And even if things are not like great, at
Yeah.
least you know where you are. And that gives you
Yes.
the knowledge and the know-how to know what move to make next. It's like checkers. Like what piece do I need to move next? If you're not even looking at the board, how do you even know?
That's
And
it.
so there's so much power in the
Mm,
knowledge of looking at it and being like, okay, I see it, I honor it. It's not where I want it to be right now, but now I at least have the information to do something about it.
yes. Yes. Beautifully said.
Gosh, thank you. I'm getting passionate about it
Yeah.
because I walked this journey.
Yep.
I crawled this journey. I
Yes.
rolled this journey, and I can clearly see where I gave away so much of me. And it's
Yeah.
why I'm so passionate about hosting this podcast and teaching classes and holding space for female entrepreneurs because
Mm,
it's really about reclaiming yourself.
amen.
Mm, gosh, good stuff. So, one of
Mhm.
my last questions, you have a method. It's called the EPIC method, which is
Yeah.
fantastic in its own.
Yes.
Talk to me about your wealth creation process and,
Okay.
just kind of give us the breakdown.
Oh yes. Okay. So the epic method to create personal wealth, EPPIC. So the thing with this method is that you really ideally want to execute on these steps in order, to avoid backsliding cash flow issues. Okay, they're placed in order for a reason, to protect you and your finances. I'll say that. The first step is E, which is of course earn, but along with that, parenthetically with the E, I put earn and protect your income. So, as of a few years ago, I had no idea that I had the option to protect my income, that there were actually vehicles out there in place for me to protect my income. I thought it was brilliant. And so the first thing you want to be making sure is, as a business owner, is that number one, your business is paying you. So you're earning a personal income for your business. Now, whether you're a sole proprietor or you're an LLC, okay, and you are paying yourself, ideally, your funds are not commingled, meaning that you have one account, even though you're a business, and you have personal and business expenses in that one account. Ideally, you have two separate accounts, a business account, a personal account, and how you are paying yourself is somehow moving money from that business account to your personal account. So you can actually track and know how much money you are paying yourself. And then on the personal side, with this first step, E, you're earning income. Your business is paying you. Okay. Now, that's very important when it comes to protecting your income, because there are, and I should clarify, I'm not a financial advisor. Okay. So I'm not giving you investment advice. All right, here. But what I can say is the ways that I know that you can protect your income is that there are insurance policies that you can get, So if the undesirable happens, for some reason you're no longer able to work or you have to stop working for a time, if you have one of these protective insurance policies in place, those insurance policies generally will insure your income 60% of what you've paid yourself. So if we go back to, let's say, the example of, let's say the business paid you this time $100,000 in the year. The business paid you $100,000 in the year. Let's say you have to stop working, but you have a protective insurance policy in place. That protective insurance policy will pay you 60% or $60,000 if you have to make a claim on that policy. So isn't that wonderful, where if your business was paying you $100,000 a year, for some reason you can't work anymore, but you still can get $60,000 to support you, in this, probably tough time. Brilliant. So that's the first, right? So that's the first step, is you're earning it. You make sure, really the pre-step to the first step is you make sure your business is paying you something. And if you have, for whatever reason, you have to stop working, that insurance policy will protect your income. That's the first step. The second step, the second P, or the first P in the method, okay, is you want to pay down debt. But you want to pay down what I call low vibe debt, okay? There's two types of debt in my view. There's neutral debt and low vibe debt. Neutral debt is any monies that you owe, let's say a mortgage, that are attached either to an asset or attached to something that generates income for you. Okay. So a mortgage, it's attached to your home that you own. That home is an asset. There's different ideas about what a home really is, but either way, if you don't consider it an asset, it certainly is attached to equity for you. And over time, that equity or that asset increases in value. So a mortgage is considered neutral debt. If you own a rental property, that mortgage and that rental property, you have renters in there, you're receiving rental income. So that mortgage, even though it's money you owe, it's attached to something generating you income. Those are things that are neutral. Low vibe debt is anything that you owe that's not earning you income, attached to something not earning you income and not increasing your equity, not attached to an asset. So a car loan. Now, all right, a car, yes, you could say that's an asset. However, it's decreasing in value over time, right? It is decreasing your equity. It's decreasing your net worth the longer you have it. So if you have a loan on something that's decreasing in over time, in my view, that's low vibe debt. A credit card, of course. A credit card is money you owe. It's not attached to income or assets or an increase in equity. Low vibe debt. Student loan, same thing. So you want to make primary in the next step to focus on paying down those low vibe debt vehicles. All right. Once you've done that, then you want to start looking at savings. The reason why I have these things in this order is because I'll hear people say, well, I haven't completely paid off this debt yet, but I have savings, or I want to focus on saving. And in my view, it doesn't make sense to have money in a savings vehicle, which most likely right now you're earning maybe at best 1% in interest. Okay. It doesn't make sense to have money sitting in a savings account earning you maybe 1% when you have money that you owe that is charging you anywhere from maybe 4 to 20%, depending on what it is. Right. So money sitting in a savings account only earning you 1%, while you have money sitting in this debt instrument that is charging you 4 to 20%, that's a losing game, right? So it makes sense that first you want to at least pay down these low vibe debt vehicles that are costing you more in interest than you're earning in savings. Once you've paid those off, great, focus on savings. All right. Once you focus on savings, then you start looking at investing and investments, right? Now, why do I say this? Because this is about again, earning. And once you have those earnings, protecting those earnings. Okay. So, an investment vehicle, many different types of investment vehicles. Okay. It doesn't make sense to invest in those things that have a certain amount of risk in them if you don't have a savings, right? If you decide, oh, well, I'm not going to focus on savings right now. I'm going to focus on putting my money in these investment vehicles. Okay, fine. But if something comes up, for some reason you need some cash or you need to liquidate, ultimately you're going to have to end up liquidating that investment account to fuel, either make up for some income or some cash that you needed, or to pay down some debt. Okay. So you won't have to do that if something comes up again, if your income is shored up and protected and you have a savings available to you. One thing that I have to shout from the mountaintops that's so important and that I see is actually the best investment vehicle out there, with the least amount of risk, is a whole life insurance policy. Now, again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an insurance broker. So, I can't sell you it. All right. So, you know that. But from what I see, the benefits are, there's a tendency that people think, well, whole life insurance policy, it sounds way too expensive and it's for my beneficiaries. But not really. Like, it is for your beneficiaries, but there's so many benefits of having a whole life insurance policy here while you're alive. Not to mention that whole life insurance policies are probably one of the most powerful ways that the wealthy have used to pass on generational wealth to their heirs. If that is a goal for you, if you care about that, then you really want to look at a whole life policy, of course, compared to a term life policy. Term life policy is really kind of it's a bet that an insurance company plays with you that they know you're going to lose. But so many whole life insurance, there's so many benefits to whole life insurance. If I can just talk a little bit about them. Number one of the things I love about a whole life insurance policy, okay, and the reason I look at it as a safe investment is what they call capital gains. You may have heard capital gains before. So if there's an investment vehicle, let's say like a stock, okay, and you put $100 in a stock, all right, and that stock goes up to $200 in value, okay. If you have to take money out from that stock, let's say for whatever reason, you put in 100, it's now valued at 200. Let's say you now want to sell that stock. Okay. So you've made a capital gain of $100. Because it's in a stock, you have to pay capital gains tax on that $100 that you made. If you have a whole life insurance policy, there are no capital gains tax. So you put 100,000, again, making this up, you put $100,000 over time, let's say over 10 years, you put $100,000 in a whole life insurance policy. That whole life insurance policy, you're receiving, technically you're receiving an increase in value over time in that insurance policy. So again, I'll use 200. So maybe after 10 years, you put in $100,000 in that whole life insurance policy, but the cash value that you now have available to you is $200,000. If for some reason you have to take the cash out of your whole life insurance policy, which you can, you take that $200,000 out. The $100,000 in capital gains is tax free. You don't pay taxes on the money. The other beautiful thing about whole life insurance policy is that it's not dependent on the stock market. Okay. So you have investments in the stock market, there's risk, there's higher risk, lower risk. Okay. But there's still a risk. Whole life insurance policy, I'm not saying they're completely not risky, but what I'm saying is that um, the gains that you will have on a whole life insurance policy um, are likely a safer bet because they're not dependent on the stock market. Okay, they're essentially dividends that the company is paying you every year over time. Okay, so they gradually increase over time, not based off of the volatility of the market. So, you know, whole life insurance policy companies that would give you a policy, they really would rather not speak about a whole life insurance policy as an investment. They'd much rather say it's an insurance policy, but and that's fine, it is, but it also, in my view, functions as an investment vehicle. And I don't think it's dishonest to say that as women we like less riskier investments. We're generally speaking, this is a generalization, true, we're much more likely to go for the safer bet when it comes to investment vehicles, and I'm one of those women. I'm right there with that, and that's why I like the idea of a whole life insurance policy over necessarily investing in stocks. Not that I'm against investing in stocks or anything like that. I'm not. But in terms of building wealth for yourself that has protections in place for you, whole life policy is huge. So that's the investment step. And then the last and final step is C in the EPIC method. And this is the home of circulation. I don't like to use the word spend when it comes to money. Spend implies deplete, use up. I like to use the word circulate because it implies that what it is I'm paying or giving out or investing will come back to me multiplied. So this is really the home of circulation, where you've increased your investments to the personal wealth level that you want. This is the home of philanthropy, living your life like it's golden, maybe starting another business, whatever you want to do, but you're shored up financially and you you're putting a legacy in place. And that's the EPIC method,
I love it.
EPPIC. Yeah.
I love it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Such great, like, meat and potatoes kind of information, right? Like the stuff that
Yeah.
really kind of sticks to your ribs. And I
Yes.
want to remind everyone listening too that all of these things start with looking at where you're at today first.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And knowing that, like, I love that you call it circulation and not spending. Like
Yes.
that takes on a whole different energy. Like,
Yes.
if anyone's listening and you're an energy or empathetic or intuitive type of person, like that word carries a different energy.
Yes.
And knowing that ultimately, like, it's real, right? Like,
Yes.
it's not off the table. It's very much on the table. It's very much doable.
Yes.
But it starts with looking at where you are today and honoring that first.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Whew. This has been amazing. I mean, really, truly, like, really good information.
Good.
I feel like this is one of those episodes where people will be like, okay, I heard that one time. I'm gonna grab a notebook. I'm gonna go back and now I'm gonna, like, study it because
Yeah.
there's such good information. What are some kind of final thoughts that you have? Any advice that you might have, or anything that's coming up that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah. I would say that yeah, there was a lot of information, right, that I gave in this episode. But I would say that it's exactly what you said, of that it's really about starting where you are, and there's no shame in where you are, right? Um, you want to really, as much as you possibly can, get away from the comparison that we tend to do of, oh, look at this Instagram, oh, she must be doing great. You have no idea how she's doing.
Yep.
Okay, you have no idea. or, oh, look at what you have no idea what's happening in their finances. And sometimes they don't either. Okay. So
That's true.
right. So really like be willing to let go of the comparison, give yourself some grace, and truly believe. And ultimately, when you believe, you come to know that if there is a desire, a fire in your heart to do and to have something financially, abundance wise, legacy wise, or whatever, you can have it. You can do it. No doubt about it. It's just a matter of allowing yourself to want it and reaching out to who you feel can support you in having it. It is possible. This sounds like a lot. It may sound intimidating, but it is possible.
Yes, allowing yourself to want it.
Yeah.
That's a whole episode in its own.
Yes.
It's okay to want
It's
things
okay.
and
Yeah.
experiences
Yes.
and businesses, and like it's okay. Like, oh, somewhere along the line that got very twisted. And yeah, before I go off on a tangent, I have to know, Simone, what does the word gutsy mean to you?
Ooh, gutsy. Yes. Well, gutsy really truly means for me is really, here we are at trust again, trusting my gut. Number one, I trust my gut. And then I have the courage to take action on what my gut is inspiring me to do.
Yes.
That's what gutsy means to me. I follow my gut and I take action on what my gut is calling me to do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Standing ovation. Incredible. Yes. Well, Simone, I have to thank you for your time and your knowledge today. I've just found this so incredibly valuable. Like I said, like good meat and potatoes. So if you guys are listening and you've kind of absorbed and you've taken all this information in, I encourage you to like go back and really listen to this episode again. Like there's a handful of episodes that I'm like, all right, you're going to need to do that a second time. This is one of those because I really want, this is just really good sound information that's it's very doable. It's very digestible. So I want to thank you for your time and your effort and your beauty for showing up for yourself and in return being able to show up for us. What's the best way our listeners can get in touch with you and stay in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is Manifest with Simone. manifestwithsimone.com. And you can connect with me there. Absolutely. You can also feel free to reach out to me if you want a kind of a business finance audit. I do complimentary business finance audits. So if you're wanting support around really seeing where you are right now and getting clear on where you are right now and what the best way forward is for you, then I have those available as well. And you can reach out to me at simonecraig.com/wealth.
Amazing. We'll make sure that we have links to all those amazing things in the show notes. And again, Simone, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. On this Thursday's Power Back, we're going to undo the comparison game. Look, I know easier said than done. It's so easy to get online and look at what everyone else is doing and saying, oh, he's so successful. Oh, she's so successful. Look at them. They're so like they have everything together and they must be making all the money in the world. What ends up happening is you end up internalizing that. And that is the frequency that you are running off of, that you're not good enough, that you can't, or that you are already too far behind. We're going to spend a little bit of time undoing that this Thursday. So if that resonates with you, I invite you to join back with me. Until then, get social with me on TikTok and Instagram using @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.